Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Thursday, October 25th, 2012. Thank God it's not yesterday because amnesia was terrifying. This is Day 9 Daily number 519, where I didn't play Amnesia yesterday. I played Slender. Welcome to the Day 9 Daily, where we learn to be a better gamer. And we don't mess up our intros, but when we do it live. Excellent. I'm in a really difficult position I want to talk to you about. I am in the unfortunate position where when I put the sweater on, I get too hot. And when I take the sweater off, I get too cold. This is hard. I have issues I need to discuss with you about this, but I'm still going to try to be a man and move forward. Speaking of being a man, I had a series of screaming last night as I played through Slender. For any of you who don't know, Slender is a horror-based game that is over on the website day9.tv, where you can find me playing through it. And last year, I actually did the playthrough of Amnesia: The Dark Descent. And I would probably say Amnesia is like a 9.5 out of 10 or better, in my opinion, as a game. Brilliantly done. Very, very clever. It's like, it's a scary game, but it's not built around a boo kind of scare, like a cheap scare. It does a brilliant job of kind of uneasing you slowly over time. One of the most clever ways of which is that you don't actually have that many mechanics. You have, you can't, like, shoot, you can't spit fireballs like in Mario. Like, I'm sure you've all had this when you're playing Mario where there's nothing to do, so you just spam fireballs. There's nothing to spam. There's nothing to do. You literally just have to walk from here to there. So the Amnesia puts in all these little subtle ambient noises, and as an organism, you start getting the adrenaline in your system, and you want to respond. You want to expend that adrenaline in some way, which you'd ordinarily do by zapping fireballs or firing your rifle or something like that. You can't do anything. So it all contributes to an internal unease. Really, really, really clever thing that they do in Amnesia. And they even do other things, like if something pops out of a corner and kills you, it won't be there when you reload. Again, contributing to that sense of unease, but also permitting you to go through the story. Slender Man, I'll say it. Slender, I didn't think was up there. I didn't think so. All right? See how I just intellectualized how me being scared was unsophisticated in some way? It's terrifying. I was very scared throughout it, but it was not as rewarding as I would say Amnesia was to play through. However, I strongly recommend playing both because Slender's free and it's made in Unity. Love Unity. Amnesia, absolutely buy, 100% must play through. Incredibly brilliant thing. And yes, as Bam123987 says in chat, it was probably more fun for you than it was for me. And while I'm telling you about today's daily, don't mind me while I look away because I realize I forgot to update myself on teamliquid.net. Next week, we're going to be playing through Amnesia expansion Justine, and if it takes 2 days, I'll do 2 days. If it takes 1 day, I'll do another game on Wednesday, Halloween night itself, after which I'll be going to Major League Gaming Dallas. Yes! But yes, definitely go download Slender. It's free. Definitely go buy Amnesia. It's awesome. Let's talk about today's daily. A Terran versus Terran between Empire Koss and Thorzain. This is a sweet match. It's both well executed, but it's also very educational. Right? It's one of those games that has a lot of panache to it. Breathing coffee's difficult. In this game, what I like is that it's going to explore 3 ideas that are really critical in any build. And now I'm too hot. The first idea is going to be consistency of play. And you hear me talk about this a lot, about this idea of, you know, hey, if we're going to open up with fast double upgrades, that we probably shouldn't do a really aggressive attack at the start. Because our double upgrades early are going to wound our ability to do that early aggression. And likewise, doing a mid or late game attack with fast double upgrades, that is consistent. So consistency is a big concept. The second one is map control, which I think is Really, really sweet. A really great concept. The idea of controlling space on the map. And of course, it'll all tie into this consistency about how we want to gobble up everything. And the third one is reading our opponent. Because both players are going to do something weird. Something very atypical. So it's going to be an interesting mixture of what build do they do, how do they open, how does it set themselves up, how are they battling for map control, how are these builds consistent, and most importantly, what do we expect our opponent to do, and then what did we see our opponent do, and how those players adjust as a result. So let's come on back to the game and hop on into it. Let me also, oh god, I have all my settings from yesterday in here. Let me go ahead and change to on Twitch TV. What game are you playing? StarCraft 2, Wings of Liberty. Oh, thank goodness. Oh, thank goodness. All right. What we're going to do in this game, in this replay, is we're going to be watching through it from one player's point of view at the start, and then we're going to go to the other player's point of view. It's not a very long game, but we will be spending the full daily on it, and I wanted to do that because it deserves it. This was a recent game from the Asus ROG Good Invitational, held up at the Too Good Nest, the Too Good Hut. I don't know if it has an official term for it, but it was hosted up where they live. And this is one of the games from the semifinals of that tournament. I believe it was game 1. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Thorzain is going to do something where he builds his depot and sends out an SCV at the same time. And he's going to be doing one of these ever-growing in popularity, fast proxy barracks builds. So this is a build that I think many people know. You're going to be getting a fast Marauder, you're going to be getting the fast concussive shell. All that will contribute to killing him. You want to just try to do that as fast as possible in the game. And also, going for the 11 barracks out here and the 12 refinery is the usual timing. But I think a lot of people know this build because it's an easy win in a lot of circumstances. And it looks super, super, super cool. It feels cool when you do it, to kill your opponent right off the bat. But the important thing is that we have some sort of transition planned out of this. 9 times out of 10, when you're at a high level, like Thorzain is at, you will not be able to kill them with a Marauder push at the start. You just can't. I mean, unless your opponent was doing something like command center, then barracks, then you might, you know, be able to win right off the bat. I'm not sure if this gets all... I'm pretty sure this is just barely out of range, but most of the time people will not see this. This is the kind of normal place to go for a proxy, is right by the bush. In case you're wondering, I'm doing this specifically on this map. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to say, right now, what is the best transition out of this? What's the best transition? Because I don't want you to be in the position that everyone's been in. I don't want you to be in that position. Let me tell you this position, where you are sending Marauders, you just saw Thorzain do it, and you think, I can be Thorzain, I can be the Swedish national champion, and you start sending the Marauders in, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to kill him, and then he doesn't die, and you don't really lose a lot of Marauders either. You say he has a bunker, and you're like, alright, I'm going to pull back. And then the situation occurs where you go, I have no idea what to do now. Huh, wow. This is the suave baller who totally gets the girl's number, says a charming line. She says, titter, titter, can I take you on a date, baby? Okay, pick me up on Friday. You pick her up on Friday, and she's like, what do you want to do? And you're like, oh, I didn't plan anything for the date, right? You don't want to be that guy. You want to have a nice dinner at an Italian restaurant. You want to have candles on the table. You want to be wearing a nice perfume that has a clever name in case she asks, okay? I want this for you. I want this for you badly. Alright, got a little bit off topic, but what's the best transition? I'm hoping that my rant gave you some time to think about. Would an early expand followed by 2 barracks be a good one? Would fast factory be a better one? Would building another barracks back in the base be a good one? Just thinking a little bit is going to be extraordinarily effective. This barracks is almost certainly not going to be here for a long time. This will eventually have to move. Therefore, going for a barracks-based play, in particular getting like combat shield and stim, that doesn't seem like a very good idea. The chances of us actually being able to make use of this barracks are low. And since this barracks is probably going to be flying or something like that, a faster factory makes much more sense. In fact, most of the time players will be building an extra refinery as early as they can. Generally, after this second Marauder gets started, you'll see players begin that path towards the factory right now. Throwing it down. So that way they can make that nice, strong, solid transition. So Thorzain is going to be moving on up. He has not yet done any of the refinery-ing. He's going for a depot. Again, notice that you still have just enough money to have built a refinery.
Our SCVs are under attack.
And then Thorzain runs into a bunker. Now, I will again establish that one of the big themes we wanted to talk about in the daily was this idea of reading the opponent. Okay, I have seen a bunker with some Marines in it. Excuse me. We don't necessarily know if he's going for a fast command center. We don't know if he's going for really anything at all. But we do know that this was built at a pretty essential time for him to want to do a next step. If he wanted to go for double barracks, it's delayed. He built a bunker. If he wanted to go factory, it's delayed because he built a bunker. If he wanted to go for triple command center and then double upgrade, it's delayed because he built a bunker. He has delayed himself, and that's enough. That is a sufficient thing to read. Again, notice how I did kind of a big analysis and then boiled it down to something simple. Oh, he built a bunker. Whatever he's doing, he's delayed himself. How do you take advantage of him being delayed? So, of course, the ever-infamous Let's Have a Blast, which is so fun. I don't know if you know this, but every time before I have to do a show, I always say, casting time! I literally do that voice. I think the Marauder is the most socially impersonable unit. There's a lot of context. Oh, it's so good. Oh, God, do you want to have a party where we sit down and watch Supernatural? Let's have a blast! Casting time! Alright, cool. So, we see Thorzain goes for the factory. And, come on. Here we go. So this is our intuitive follow-up, because again, this isn't going to be here. It doesn't matter if I canceled Marauder production quickly. It doesn't matter if I made 1 Marauder or 5 Marauders. This is not going to be here for a long time. Therefore, it's hard to go for that Marine tech. So again, factory early, factory late. That's not the core idea. The core idea is factory at all is the logical choice. So Thorzain, being a boss, goes for a factory at all, but we know he's delayed. He's delayed himself. So Thorzain cleverly does not opt to go for the second geyser and go for the Banshee tech, which tends to be the typical one. It really sucks that Koss got to spot that. But Thorzain is in fact going to go for an expand, which I thought was very slick, really clever. Going for the expand, oops, sorry, wrong button. I hit the B button, forgive me, here we go. Alright, come on, come on. Okay. Going for the expand cleverly exploits a delay of whatever. So let us again step into the shoes of consistency. The shoes of consistency. If I am early expanding, and if I'm pretty sure he has delayed himself, but I don't know what he's doing, what must I necessarily be worried about? What must I necessarily do for my build? So here's the I'm going to rephrase that question a little bit. If we have no idea what he's doing, but we know he's delayed, if we have expanded, and if we are going factory, what must we necessarily do? We necessarily have to go straight for a starport and get Vikings because he could be going Banshee. We have to be doing that. That is the simplest, straight up, cleanest, purest thing that we must be doing. Nothing too complicated about that. Banshees are very common in the matchup. But if, for instance, we had barracks tech, if we had 3 barracks and he was going Banshee, or excuse me, if we had 3 barracks and he could be going Banshee, we don't have to get a starport. We can get an engineering bay with turrets. We can go for a lot of Marines and start stockpiling scan. We can get more reactors and combat shield with our barracks. There's many barracks-focused tech right there. But we have to be going for a Viking here because we don't have barracks. Very often you'll see more inexperienced players, silver to platinum, build an engineering bay here. They're smart enough to know, oh yeah, he could be going for Banshee right now, but it's not consistent. So great. And then we go for a refinery. Again, if this barracks is going to die, cool. The barracks is going to die, that's cool. We may as well get the resource that contributes to non-barracks tech. Cool. Excuse me. So, you know, I'll be honest, I don't like doing this. There was a time when I was playing Terran and going proxy all the time, maybe like a year ago, and I had a lot of fun doing it, and I got real overeager with stuff like this. I only do this if he tried to wall himself in with supply depots and a barracks and had a bunker behind. But in this case, I just don't like doing this. So often, I like to pull back to my base and just have the damn barracks, right? I just want my freaking barracks. Ugh. Okay, so now I'm going to ask one more question. We've talked about this idea of consistency, so we're being consistent with our thought process throughout. The most recent example was, if we're going to go factory, we got to go starport to defend against Banshees. We can't pull back into engineering bay, marine defense. We talked a little bit about reading our opponent. We read a delay, so we respond to the delay by getting up a command center. But the one thing we haven't talked about is map control. Map control, my favorite concept ever. Map control is the simple fact, or the simple definition of the following. If you can wander your grandmother to the middle of the map and have her wander back to your main base safely, then you have map control. If you don't have map control. Cool. Right now, Thorzain has map control, because Thorzain can easily wander his grandmother to center map. Hell, he can wander his grandmother right up here. This is an extreme form of map control. We would say that's very good map control. If you have reasonable map control, you can get here. And if you have no map control, then she can calmly sit down at the top of your ramp and play bingo. My grandma loves bingo. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, so Thorzain has gone for a nice map control play. He's gone for a Marauder opening. He has total domination over the center of the map. But down in the bottom right, we're going for this starport, and we know we're going to go Vikings. What MVP-type players tend to do is to get a tech lab at the factory to be able to start stockpiling tanks, a very defensive-style play. However, I love what Thorzain is going to do. He is going to go for a map control-based play. I have shoved you way the hell back with my Marauders. And notice, even before Thorzain gets into Empire Cass's base, Thorzain is already planning on this map control play. He's planning on going for double Hellion and Viking. Double Hellion production and Viking is an excellent way to get map control. It's an excellent way to create the safe passage for your grandmother into the middle. And when you have map control, you have the ability to do harassment. You have a much better sense of what your opponent is doing. You can expand more freely. You can get upgrades more easily because you know what's coming at you. Again, the sacrifice of map control is raw power. You're going for units that are faster as opposed to units that are stronger, like tanks. But I'm always in favor of map control. Freaking always. I love map control. It's the greatest. So yeah, Thorzain is going to try to maintain map control, likely as an attempt to continue to apply pressure to this expansion, but it will also give Thorzain the opportunity to take his own third earlier if he so desires. Yes. Oh, yes.
It's under attack.
Map control is really, really key, and I strongly recommend watching maps watching GSL games in terms of a struggle for map control. Controlling watchtowers is an example of map control. Thorzain is abandoning map control.
Add-on complete.
And apparently I'm on over at NASL.TV as well. That's really sweet. I love it. I love it. So, yeah. Go watch me on NASL TV as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop right now, and I'm going to note that Thorzain has to rebuild this barracks, which, again, is annoying. One of the reasons why I don't like scouting with my barracks sacrificially. Also, Thorzain is doing a very expensive opening, which is double Hellion Viking. That burns through your cash really quickly, especially considering how many depots you have to make. But at this point in time, Thorzain has abandoned map control. But he has established himself in an expansion. He is starting to build the unit mixture of fast mobile units to shut down his opponent's map control, to reseize map control, and of course, he is getting a Viking to prepare for that Banshee defense. Ah, how clean. Before we go to the break, I want to note that Thorzain very well could have not gone for the Hellions. He could have done any number of different forms of responses to his opponent. The important thing is that we see that delay, my opponent built a bunker, equates to, aha, I can take an expansion. If our opponent had like a ton of Marines at the top of the ramp, I probably, in Thorzain's shoes, would have instantly gone gas factory straight tech to starport, because I know my opponent is behind on tech. Again, if he has a lot of Marines, he can't be going for a lot of tech, and a Banshee will be very useful in that circumstance. So we're seeing this idea of Thorzain responding to his opponent, having consistent logic throughout his build, and is trying to seize and maintain map control throughout. When we come back in part 2, we're going to watch Kasa's play, we're going to watch his opening, and we're going to see a really weird response from Kas that seems completely counterintuitive, but actually makes sense when we stop and think about it in terms of those three things. So, yes, that was an awesome part 1. Yes, let's do part 2. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Pew, 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 pew.